Welcome back to the ZERT Coffee and Chaos podcast, a show where we talk about anything and everything relating to what it means to be a survivalist and a prepared individual in today's society. I'm your host, Chris Bartagone, ZP002. With me, as always, Jamie Franks, my co-host. Jamie, welcome back.
Thank you, and hope you had a good Christmas, and we're almost in the new year. We've been talking about but now, like by the time this podcast comes out, it will be upon us.
Yes, it will be. Yeah. It's fun because I have recorded 2 shows this week, and Christmas was obviously just at the time of this recording was just on Monday. And I think I've said to a couple people, I think that Christmas just needs to be standing Saturdays and everybody gets Monday off. Because this Christmas on a Monday and then going back to work is just insane. Although the day blew by and there was nobody here, nobody in this park yesterday. And it was nice and quiet and the day kind of flew by. Today, something different. But yeah, it was a good Christmas, man. I know that we talked a little bit yesterday and you kind of told me that yours was, you didn't have a lot of family around, and I guess your daughter is traveling for it. Is that just kind of the way it fell?
So with my daughter and her mom, we alternate all major holidays. And so the way it works out, we alternate, like, she was with her mom for Christmas, so I'll have her for New Year's. But she was with me for Thanksgiving. And so next year it'll be the flip-flop of that, where I won't have her on Thanksgiving, but I will have her for Christmas, but I won't have her for New Year's. And so, yeah, she's on a trip with her mom. So I didn't have my daughter. And I'm originally from North Carolina, and I opted to not go to North Carolina this year either, mainly because I didn't have my daughter with me. And so, yeah, I just kind of stuck close to home and went diving on Christmas morning. And opening presents by yourself is not very much fun. But through my time in the Navy, I've spent my fair share of Christmases away. So this was better than that, but not as nice as being surrounded by family, but it was pretty good. I got a Red Ryder BB gun, and I've become a complete menace to my neighborhood ever since Christmas morning.
I can imagine.
Never had one before.
All right. Well, there you go. Just, don't shoot your eye out, kid. I mean, boom, there it is. Yeah, it was a good time. I got an amazing humidor, and I am excited to fill it with some great cigars. It's funny. One of the other state POCs for ZERT, they just moved back to Alaska, her and her husband, who's still in, and he's actually, I think he's in the Navy, and I believe he is in San Diego right now. He put up a post about husbands and wives, and he says, listen, when husbands say they don't want anything for Christmas, they're not really being difficult. They're not being, a pain in the ass. Men just will get what they want throughout the year. Socks and t-shirts and whatnot are perfect for Christmas time. The enjoyment comes from the kids and the wives opening up all of the gifts and seeing the joy on their face. And he's not wrong. I mean, there's anything that I've wanted, I get for myself when I can get for myself. And that's it. I don't make a running list. I mean, there are things that you always kind of have on a list. And with Amazon and all of these things, it's easy to just compile a list of things that you want over the year. And I was talking to the web developer for Clark Armory. He stopped on Friday and he was like, yeah, he's like, my wife just keeps adding to the cart, and he's like, I go to check out and I don't realize that there's a cart full of stuff. And, it's not, there's wish list, there's save for later. And the next thing you know, it's a $20, whatever dongle becomes a $500 shopping cart that you just did. So, the internet has made shopping very easy, which, God, it's almost like I plan these segments, these transitions, which leads us to what we want to talk about today. And I think it's a combination of both, right? So over the last couple of weeks, you and I have talked about the movie Leave the World Behind, which we kind of dove into a digital world there and what could happen when you lose control of that. And so when we were coming up with ideas for the show, something popped into my head this morning, and I kind of threw it out there to you. And coincidentally, you have a book that you're about to read, but wiping your digital footprint is, I in my mind, something that it needs to be on kind of the back burner for everybody. Now, with that being said, without a digital footprint, there is no ZERT Coffee and Chaos podcast. There is no email me here. And I mean, when you start to unravel this thing, you realize how vast the rabbit hole is if you go down this.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those shows that we talked about kind of earlier on in these podcasts, that there's no way we could ever cover this with any significant depth in a 1 hour podcast. So this is going to be one of those podcasts where the listener, you're just going to be left with a whole bunch of stuff to go and research on your own, because this is this arguably could be one of the most in-depth topics we've ever even tried to scratch the surface of. But hopefully we leave you with some good takeaways. But this is a very, very, very deep rabbit hole that leads to Wonderland.
Yeah, I
but
agree.
It is. So the book you talked about, I'll just go ahead and hold it up now. It's called Extreme Privacy, and it's written by a guy named Michael Basil, or Bazel. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, because he's
whip-de-doo Basil.
His digital footprint, so I don't know. But he has kind of become the go-to guy in Hollywood and in American politics for basically helping people remove themselves from public record. And so when we're talking about removing our digital footprint, that's really what we're talking about, is removing yourself from public record, meaning somebody that wishes to do you harm, or harass you online, or to run a sensational news story about you, or whatever the case may be, to make whatever information is about you, make it kind of detached or removed from your actual physical location, and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah. So I think we need to probably take that book and take that kind of statement and take a couple of steps back. First off, guys, if you are just listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast, this episode is being aired on our YouTube channel. If you head over there, for those that you are that have not heard the message before, we'll just put it up there again. Like and subscribe so you get notified about these videos when they get put up. Click that bell and you'll get that notification as well.
And we would greatly appreciate feedback.
Always providing feedback. It's what helps drive the ideas for additional episodes, or just to come back and maybe have a second part or a add-on from one of our previous shows. For those that are watching today, I am wearing my Nakatomi Plaza Rad Palm party shirt. I'm if you guys are interested in that one, you can check the link down below. Rad Palm, they make the ZERT party shirt. Before we get into the show, we had them on earlier this week, and we dropped some exciting news. So if you haven't watched that episode, which will probably air before this episode, do that now. But going back to what you said, I think there are levels of this scrubbing, if you will, right? I mean, there is okay, you've posted, male, female, whatever the case may be, you've posted some things online, or maybe there's something that got leaked online and you want to remove that. There's that level of this. You may have broken into a a Walmart, and back when you were younger and you got arrested, and there's a mugshot of you on there, and you've since been rehabilitated and you've done everything you need to do, but that information is still out there, and you want to remove that stuff. And then I think there is probably that really deep dive down where you want to be even more gray man than the gray man, and there is no footprint. When you type that Google search and you spell your name, there's nothing.
Yeah, so like that's a perfect way to say it. Is there are many different levels, and this book that I just held up, from what I understand, this guy is kind of the go-to expert in this field, the guy that wrote this book. But the book is not really recreational reading. I mean, it really is. It's a 600-page how-to manual, and it's broken down by different, like you said, like different layers. This book was a gift to me by one of my friends who was a scout sniper in the Marine Corps and got out of the Marine Corps and kind of started doing secret squirrel spooky stuff for 3-letter agencies. And so he just thought this would be something that I might be into, because there's the thing where, like, as far as I know right now, I can't go on Google, for example, and I can't find out Tom Cruise's home address, his actual phone number, his actual email. I can't, even if I have a friend that's a cop, I don't because that's one of the things that's covered in this book. It's one of the chapters is removing your private vehicles, like titling your vehicle to a trust that's tied to a PO box somewhere. So even if you have a friend that's a cop, you can't give him Tom Cruise's license number and pull up Tom Cruise's address and phone number and email address and all that stuff. So I'm sure Tom Cruise doesn't wish to completely disappear, but he does want to remain a private person.
Exactly.
And so
he wants some level of privacy, and that is probably some tradecraft that they teach you when you graduate from Juilliard School of Arts. They're like, okay, before and that's why a lot of I'm sure a lot of actors do have a stage name, and that's probably why they do it, because at some point their real name is not, well, it's obviously it's not what their stage name is, and then their information may be, I don't know, stored under their real name or not. But so go ahead, continue on with that, please.
Oh no, but yeah. The reason I haven't really read this book is because, like, I think, my time in the military is winding down. I think my window of being recruited into the CIA to be an assassin, I think that window has kind of closed. And so I've been on TV, and I'm on this, you may have heard of this podcast that I'm a co-host of. And I maintain an Instagram account that I curate on purpose. And I have a couple of Facebook pages that I am active on and curate on purpose, specifically to get my name out there and my shooting classes out there and stuff like that. Right. So there are layers. And one of the things that I was going to put my focus toward, as we get into this, is maybe a person is not really in a position where they want to completely go dark, off the grid.
Right.
But it definitely, the more you look into this and the more you look at how many layers to this there are, for me, it really appears as though it is something that I think every person can do to some extent and kind of get ahead of to some extent. I mean, and one of the most common things that jumped out at me, it was one of the first parts of this book, is like, the first thing you want to do is start deleting like old stuff that you don't use anymore. And so like the thing that jumped out of my mind is like, how many people, probably because you just stopped using it, but how many people actually went through all the steps to actually delete and remove and erase their MySpace page? How many people that are listening to this still probably have a like MySpace is still out there. I did. I deleted my MySpace account probably 13 or 14 years ago.
And I'm going to take it a step further, because one of the things that I found is, you're right, you have to delete all those old accounts. Guess what? Unless you're using the same password, which you probably shouldn't be, try and remember that password, because I know I don't remember it. But one of those, and again, let's take a step back, one step back further. Everybody, we all just got done with Christmas, right? Did you go to every store to buy a Christmas gift and use cash? If you didn't, if you went and you did your Christmas shopping, 97% of it was done on Amazon. Well, I mean, that's where it starts, right? The big three out there that are acquiring, storing, and maybe selling your information: Google, Amazon, Facebook. They do it because it's target advertising.
Yep.
The moment you get on your phone and you start talking about something, or you search your browser on your phone and then you go to Facebook, and then boom, there it is. It's right there. You have, like you just said, Jamie, you have to decide where you want to fall into this scrubbing of your digital footprint, right? Because if you want to do exactly what you just said, if you want to go fully gray man off the grid, if you have an Amazon Alexa, get rid of it. You have a cell phone that has internet access, get rid of it.
Well, if you have a cell phone that you signed up for with your actual legal name,
get rid of it. Right. Just folks, I'm going to start at the end. And what I mean by that is your last step in doing all of this is deleting your email. Okay? Deleting your email. There's a handful of people out there that aren't using email now, but I mean, every day you probably look at your email and use it for something, right? I mean, so that's the last step. Once you get through all of this, contacting this company, because some of these steps in this book that I'm sure we will kind of dive into, is you need to contact these companies to have stuff removed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and again, like the biggest point I wanted to make, and hopefully the biggest takeaway for people that are listening to this, is how to understand what you're voluntarily giving away on a daily basis, and start there. Like, just
right.
Stop voluntarily giving your information away on a daily basis if that's something that you're concerned about. And a small example of that, like you just said, Christmas shopping online, every single place, every single website that you go to that's like not Amazon, and you purchase something from this standalone website, when you're checking out to pay, obviously you're not using cash, and that's a whole other thing, but every website gives you the option to create an account for easier checkout next time. Yep. That's another thing I don't do. I don't ever create those accounts where they store your address, and they store your payment information, and they store your phone number, and you create an account with a password, which, like you just alluded to earlier, lots of people use the same password for many different sites. So just because you went to Zappos.com and bought a pair of shoes, and during the checkout process you decided to take that extra step to create an account,
right?
Now, if they have a data breach, you have accidentally, made your information vulnerable across, several other things that also probably have your address and phone number and email and payment information saved. So a lot of these things are created to make it convenient, so that you want to do these things for your own convenience, but therein lies the bear trap.
Yeah. Now, I would have used a different example. Like if you went to clarkarmory.com for Christmas shopping, we do offer an option where you do have to check out, but you can also check out as a guest. I recommend, if you then do it. But if your computer then gives you the option to save your password, I don't have anything saved in my mind, written down. I mean, I used to have phone numbers saved, but no longer. They're all saved on a computer somewhere. So like you said, when those data breaches happen and those websites lose your information, that's a problem. Now, there are programs out there, there's companies out there that you can use to do some of this, but everything that I researched today or about today's topic was, it's funny because you wonder if it's the people that are acquiring all this information make it so hard to do that you don't do it. You know what I mean? Like they make it so challenging where you just give up. You're like, oh, screw it, whatever. You know what I mean? I mean, is
This,
that
well, I'm laughing because years ago, my truck was parked on the Navy base in San Diego, and somebody decided to use my truck as a pick and pull in the middle of the night and stole a bunch of like parts off of my truck. And you know, the base has security and I'm parked in a secure parking lot, so I mean the base was responsible, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll totally reimburse you. Here you go, here, fill out all this paperwork and get it back to us. And that's because I took one look at that 100-page paperwork and was like, I'd rather pay my $500 deductible than deal with all this paperwork. So
exactly. Yeah. So you know, it's almost like they're like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. You can scrub your footprint. You just have to go do this. You have to do this. You have to do this. First, you have to start with that first password that you ever used when you first got on America Online back in 1989. Like, okay, forget it. Keep my information. I mean, it is what it is at this point. Everybody else, and then everybody gets into that. Well, everybody else, screw it. Everybody else is on there. Like, yep. I would venture to make a bold statement that there is less than probably 1% of the population that has zero digital footprint.
Oh man, I would say it's far less than 1%. I mean, like that.
And the only
crazy low percentage.
But the way that you can kind of determine that is anyone born prior to 1950 that's still alive may not have a digital footprint, because it, you know, like my father has a Facebook and I'm sure has an email, but you know, like there's no digital footprint other than those two things. Now,
so I think as an American, if you are alive and functioning in the year 2023, as an American, I think it's probably almost impossible to have no digital footprint. Now, you can have a greatly reduced and a very lean digital footprint, but I would say it would probably be almost impossible nowadays to have none. Like,
actually,
and this is one of those things that, like, when you and I were growing up, we're not too far off in age, but you know, when you used to watch like shows like Magnum PI, or you know, my mom used to watch Dallas when I was growing up, or like my grandma watched the old soap operas, like it was kind of a common trope in all of those shows that somebody would fake their death and assume this new identity. You don't really hear that anymore. It's not really a trope that's in movies or TV anymore, because now it has become so like nearly impossible to do that. I mean, when I was in high school, I dated a girl, and I'm not going to say his name because I don't ever know what happened with it, but I dated a girl, and I was like a junior or senior in high school, and we found out.
Did you just say his?
What?
You said,
yeah, I'm not gonna, it's her. I'm talking about her dad.
Oh, got it. Okay. I was lost for a second. I was like, wait, what?
It became known that her dad, I'm not going to use his name, but her dad had like used to live in some other town 100 miles away and had faked his own death to collect the insurance money and moved to a new town and started a new family. And wow. I guess the new wife and the old wife were both like in on it, but the kids weren't. But anyway, you don't hear about anybody faking their death anymore because it's extremely difficult. But like, all of this stuff that we're talking about, and that's why I said it would probably be nearly impossible for anybody that's a functioning member of society, specifically in the United States now. All these things have become such a Trojan horse because they come under the guise of convenience, or the, you know, packaged in a way where you feel like you're getting something out of it, so you want to. And a quick little story. A couple of years ago, it might have actually been last year. It was either last year or year before. It was either 2022 or 2021. In the state of California, there was this huge data leak that like leaked all these CCW holders personal information. It was like the state database that held the records for everybody's concealed carry permits. There was this massive data breach or data leak that everybody said was accidentally on purpose. And like, I knew so many people that were like so up in arms and this is unacceptable and people need to be held accountable. And yes, maybe there is truth in that, but the big, huge wake up call that I tried to give to all those people is every single day you voluntarily give away more information about yourself than what was leaked by this big data breach.
Sure. Yeah.
You, like you said earlier, obviously whatever social media sites you use, and you're posting pictures of yourself and you're checking in wherever you go and you're tagging the people that you're with. And, you know, depending on what internet browser you use, I'm guilty of this. You probably use whichever one is most convenient, and you probably don't have a VPN. And people use like these direct messaging apps like WhatsApp and Snapchat. And you need to understand, like, are you using an app that has end-to-end encryption, or are you using an app that is collecting your data? Like whichever search engine you use, if you have an Amazon account, if you have a Spotify account, like all those things, are they collecting data? And if they are you using a VPN or not? Probably not. But like I going back to my original point, these are all sold to you in a way that you feel like it's a benefit to you. So when you first said you wanted to do this digital footprint episode, I went back to I did a little bit of a deep dive on the OG digital footprint, which is your social security number. Prior to 1935, nobody had a social security number. In 1935, they passed the Social Security Act, and they said, hey, if we give everybody this number isn't attached to an account for you. And so when you become age 65, you'll get free money from the government. All you have to do is just take this number.
Yeah.
So that's how they sold it to everybody. And in 1936, they started issuing every American citizen a social security number. And now every single kid that has been born in a hospital in the United States since 1936, you have a social security number that is permanently attached to you that follows you for the rest of your life. And originally it was sold as, this is a way that we're going to give you free money and we're going to help you. But now that number is attached to all of your employment records, all of your medical records, all of your student records, your credit score, all your financial and banking information, your passport. If you have been in the military service between 1974 and 2011, your social security number was your primary identification number. Prior to that, you got a military serial number. And in 2011, they started phasing in the DOD ID number. But if you served in the military so they started that in 2011, and it's still not even fully integrated. We still use social security number for stuff in the military. If you have a security clearance, your social security number is tattooed all over that. And that's used for you to pay taxes now, so like all these things are a Trojan horse, and the social security number was like the first version of that. And now there's all these other modern conveniences that start with like this little thing right here, my cell phone, that make me want to give away my information every day, and people don't even realize they're doing it.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, it has become such it's become such a multi-layered web that you just don't realize it. You just listed off a bunch of things that social security number is attached to. And one of them you mentioned is your credit score. And that controls a huge part of your life. Yep. And the worst part about it is there's nobody you can call when you have an issue with that. You can't call the credit bureau and say, hey, this is wrong. They tell you that, oh, well, you need to file a dispute. Mm-hmm. And so if somebody has stolen your identity because it was leaked to on the internet, on the dark web, whatever, they have now taken your identity, gone and started credit card after credit card after credit card with your identity. And then they just get all of the things, all of the benefits, and don't have to worry about paying it. You are now affected by that, and good luck trying to fix that. So you know, the we we can go down a whole nother rabbit hole with credit scores and credit
Yeah.
issue, because that is a major problem. And it, to me, it's like I said, there's nobody that you can call when something is amiss with what's happening with your credit. There was a post made a, maybe about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, about somebody in this space, in this 2A space, who their credit limit was reduced after they had bought some firearms and ammunition from a website, and there was some questions of, are institutions like that monitoring your purchases and passing that information along? um
Probably.
Again, probably, who knows? Don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but this is just goes back to that whole entire thing. By the way, if you have a credit card nowadays, you fill that application out online, because you've gotten 17 emails saying, hey, you pre-approved for this, just click this link here.
So the reason I just said probably is because, not to be a smart ass, or not to, like, I think you and I both try to, as hard as we can, to be politically neutral on these podcasts. But the reason I said probably is because that's an assumption that you should make. Is your purchase activity, whether it's guns or whatever it is, guns and ammo or not, is your purchase activity being tracked and being looked at and being sold to somebody else and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Like, you should assume that that's true. And like what you just said, the most crazy thing ever is when I first bought my house, applied for a loan, got approved, got a mortgage, bought the house, closed on the house, escrow, all this stuff, right? Got the keys to my house. The realtor says, congratulations, you're now a homeowner. Here's the keys to your house. I got the keys to my brand new house. This is my first day having this mailbox with this address. I went and checked my mail that day, the day I got the keys to my house, the first day that this address was ever attached to me. On the very first day that I got the keys to my house, I went to my mailbox, and there was a letter in the mailbox addressed to me asking if I wanted to refinance my mortgage on the first day that I lived in my house.
Well, but here's the thing, right? So I think with that situation, like, there had to be a bunch of paperwork that happened and a bunch of steps before you got that key.
Sure.
So at some point there was a record of you buying that house. And trust me, there's been some things with very similar situation where, getting a loan and literally working with one company, getting 6 phone calls in a day saying, oh, hey, we see that you're looking for money. Oh, we see that you're looking for money. Oh, we see that it's the moment you make one inquiry, that information is being farmed out, sold at the cheapest probably price to every company that is similar to that one, in hopes to get your business.
And
go ahead.
And that's why, again, like, I want to reiterate that should be the biggest takeaway, that perhaps this, more than anything else, you are your own worst enemy with all of this stuff. I mean,
right.
Like, you are voluntarily giving away so much information every day. I mean, I saw an article, it was fairly recently, it was in the last year or so, where I can't remember if it was China or Iran, but they were able to perfectly, in amazing detail, map an American military base, because they were able to hack the information from Apple Watches and Fitbits.
Wow.
And so, because everybody's wearing these fitness trackers, which you can tell yourself, like, hey, I just want to make sure I get 10,000 steps every day. But you're voluntarily giving away that information that can be used in a way that you didn't anticipate. And now a foreign country has a perfectly, amazingly detailed map of an American military base, because everybody wears a Fitbit or an Apple Watch out of convenience.
Yeah. Now, just kind of going back to that Social Security situation, and we talked about for a second that, you bought all of your gifts online because you used a debit card or a credit card, which you had to acquire both of those. And in order to acquire both of those, you needed to provide your social security number. You can't go get a job without providing a social security number. You can't nobody's handing out cash for jobs these days because the government needs their money. Taxation is theft. Fuck off. And you have to get your paycheck, and your paycheck is then direct deposited into your bank, which you couldn't have opened a bank account without your social security number. It's all controlled. It's all connected, but there's no way around it. I mean, short of going to get a job as a bartender and just collecting your tips every day, and that's what you live off of, and you put that money in a shoebox and you bury it in your, like, there is some form of tracking that is always happening. And so you really have to ask yourself, how is it viable?
Well, it's not done by accident. And I was trying to think of it this morning, and short of going back and watching the movies, I can't remember which movie it is, but I think it's either Minority Report or that movie with Justin Timberlake where they don't have money. It's just your time. You have like time left on your life.
Justin Timberlake. Out of Time is the movie.
Yeah, but it's one of those two movies, and I can't remember which one, but it's a scene where the main character is like walking through a city street, and as they walk past like the bus stop, the ad on the bus stop will change to something that is, because facial recognition and your digital footprint and your online search activity. As this person is walking down the street, all the billboards and like the ads you see at the bus stop are changing to target each individual person as they're walking by. And so like all this stuff is done on purpose. It's not an accident. It's just all about how willing are you going to be to play into it. And I mean,
right. And I believe that was Minority Report, because there were cameras everywhere, and they were doing facial recognition. And so what's a little bit scary about that is now all of our phones, there's no more buttons. The iPhones went from a physical button you'd have to press to, then you had a button with a fingerprint scanner, and you had to put your fingerprint on it so you could unlock your phone. And now all of that's gone, and now it's front-facing camera, recognizes your face, unlocks your phone. It can unlock your money. It can unlock your Apple Pay, all of it. And then, yes, you take that one step further, and now those cameras are using facial recognition, which I'm sure that every street camera in America, or, the street cams and all of that stuff that are monitoring speeding and all of that stuff, have probably been uploaded with some form of facial tracking, facial recognition situation to continue to keep an eye on, for whatever the case may be, terrorists, law enforcement, catching people speeding, whatever fancies their agenda for the day. But that's the other thing, right? How do you ensure, as this technology continues to grow, that when they scan your face, it doesn't recognize you? Because you have no foot. That's what they're doing, right? They scan your face and they say, oh, okay, well, Chris looked at, humidors yesterday, so let's show him every humidor known to man right now.
And we're helping them by uploading a picture to Facebook, and I'm tagging myself with my face, and I'm tagging you with your face. And now it's gotten to the point where if you post a picture on Facebook, it will automatically recognize the faces and tag them for you.
That is so scary.
And then, a couple years ago, people did the 10-year challenge, which I think was a way for Facebook to do facial recognition with like an aging algorithm or something. So people, out of vanity and under the guise of having fun and socializing with your friends and comparing how did I look 10 years ago to how do I look now, you just gave them a perfect side-by-side 10-year age progression that now they can use for their facial recognition software. And so
and what's funny is I've seen some other ones out there in the internet world where it's, what am I going to look like 20 years down the road, which again just gives them more building blocks to continue to take information. Like, oh,
Yeah. So
okay, well, there you go.
again, so the like step one in all of this, and kind of what you said, like I'm sure there's things coming, like whatever the
Hmm.
next generation of social media is going to look like, whatever the next generation of social media landscape is probably something that you and I haven't even thought of yet. But step one is just like not participating and not voluntarily giving your stuff away constantly every day.
Yeah. Now, if you are interested in doing some of this, and I think you alluded to it as well, where information that you've already provided to companies over the last 10 years could have been leaked by those companies, there is a website that has I everything that I read about it is pretty reputable, and it's called Have I Been Pwned, and that's PWNED.
Okay.
And you can search that website for any of your information that has been leaked due to data breaches and data hacks. And there's other companies out there on the internet that you could probably use, but the question becomes is, okay, well, are they taking your information, and then are they selling your information? So
So the one that you just said, the have I been pwned? I didn't find that. That's interesting. I'll look that up. But there's the one I found is called Delete Me,
okay,
and they will. You obviously you have to provide them with a little bit of your information so that they can scan all these databases of what they call data brokers that are like
yes,
harvesting and selling your data, and that's where you can kind of get a because you know again I was guilty of this as well, like back in the early 2000s, kind of before MySpace and Facebook. A lot of people did like online forums and online message boards and stuff like that, and we just kind of like speaking for myself, like I just stopped using those things, but they're still out there and those accounts like still exist. So I guess this Delete Me
right,
site will scan all that stuff, and they can uncover whatever information is already available to these data brokers, and then you can start to remove
right.
yourself from those things.
Now, if anybody out there has ever tried to use one of these credit doctors, these credit repair people that say, yes, pay me $150 and I will repair your credit and we'll get it back up to where it needs to be. And it never works. Those things do not work. I don't know what Delete Me is. I have not checked this. Have I been pwned? But if there's these other companies out there that are asking for this, oh, yep, pay us $99 and we will
A
delete
month.
your a month, delete your digital footprint for the next 3 months. And then after that, you can have a fresh start. Do some vetting on that, please, folks. Do some due diligence here. Don't just shell out the credit card to the next company that's going to sell your information for more of this stuff. Because if you look up one of these, I guarantee you're probably going to get some ads for 5 more companies trying to offer you the same services. So, it's just a tangled web we weave. But so that was the one website that I found. So, okay, so you found another one called Delete Me.
Hmm.
Obviously, folks, we got some notes here, so pardon. Um, Pardon the page turning, but uh, yeah. So, all accounts I have read so far is it is not easy. It is time consuming.
See, yeah. So, and that's another thing that this book offers is, again, this book isn't recreational reading. It's a
Right.
straight up like textbook. It's like a how to, but he has templates of letters that you need to write. So yes, you will have to sit down and hand jam out a letter and
Right.
address it and lick a stamp. But it tells you, it gives you all these templates for letters that you need to write and who you need to send those to get things removed. So yeah, so that yeah, if depending on how deep you want to go down, it's going to take a lot of legwork. It's probably not going to be easy. But one of the things that he points out kind of in the first chapter is he said, for a lot of this stuff, there's not an easy way to do it. Like a lot of it does kind of start with you sitting down with a pen and a piece of paper and trying to remember all this old stuff that you used
Right.
to use.
Right.
And it's funny that kind of one of the things that you just said jogged my memory. I recently got an email because my primary email account that I use, I've had that since I was in high school when I didn't even know what email was or how to use it or why I would ever need to use it. But my girlfriend in high school, not the one with the uh, father who faked his own death, different.
Okay,
But
right.
She knew I was joining the Navy and was like, "You're probably going to need one of these email accounts." And so she set up my email account for me, and it's still the email account that I primarily use. So I've had this email account since 1997,
Wow.
1996.
Okay.
And so back when I used to use these like online forums and message boards, you couldn't really post a picture on the board. You had to like go to like one of these photo hosting sites. You had to upload your photo there and then copy the line of code to like be able to post a picture on these message boards. And so like I used to do that all the time, and it was like all like off-road stuff. Like if I did some kind of repair or some kind of modification to my truck and I wanted to write up a how-to and take pictures, I would have to host all my photos. Anyway,
Wow.
I just got an email from a service that I used to use that I completely forgot existed, and they said that they were shutting down, and if I wanted to back up all my pictures that I had hosted on their service, that I needed to respond to this email and click this thing and download all. But it was called it was imageshack.us, and I
Oh,
used to use
wow.
that for like hosting my photos. But I got an email from them after all these years. I had completely forgotten they had ever existed. And I got an email from them telling me that if I wanted to keep all those photos that I uploaded 18 years ago,
Yeah.
that, you know,
It's just we are such we are such a digital society, that it's just mind-boggling to think about your daily activities without technology in it. Okay.
yeah,
And where I'm going with that is you wake up in the morning and you check your phone, and your phone has your calendar on it, and it has possibly things that you have to do for the day. You speak to five people in a matter of 5 minutes sometimes, and so you communicate with multiple people at a time, at one time, without actually talking to that person. I mean, sure, we've had phones, right? But go back to 1994, before you were using a cell phone, and how did you talk to your friends? Like, you picked up that phone and you dialed the phone. I mean, even outside of just going to school. I mean, I remember graduating high school, and at the time I was young, and that summer after high school, I opened up a comic book store, and
hmm,
like I went to work every day. We didn't have TV, we didn't have cable, we didn't have internet. Like, I sat there all day, and you did nothing. You literally did. I mean, I think at that point we did have a Super Nintendo hooked up to a TV. So we were playing, whatever, waiting for the next customer to come in and buy a comic book. But think about what that is. So, and I know that's kind of different. I mean, maybe we're talking about two sides of the same coin, your digital footprint and then the technology surrounding it. But I think one feeds the other, right? Without that digital technology that is always on you, always in your face, you wouldn't be leaving that kind of footprint. you know I remember when I opened up that store, the Voices, a local newspaper, came out and did an article, and they took a picture of me, and there I am holding and we had an article, and it was written in a newspaper, wasn't online. And I would challenge anybody to see if they could find that article today online. Guarantee you it's probably not there. But anything you've done since you got your first cell phone and email address and went onto your first AOL chat room and started putting information out there, I'm sure that's there. It's just a very, when you pull back these layers and you look at it, it's really scary. And then the and one point, and then take over. And the really scary part of it is you are not in control. You are not 100% in control of it. It can
Yeah,
be
that's
acquired and stolen and used for other things.
well, you're also not in control in a different way. That's what I was about to say. Like, I went on deployment. It's been a little over a year now since I was on deployment. But you're also not in control because if you want to live a normal life where you own a car and have a cell phone and have a house and all this kind of stuff, you now have to do all these things that are now mandatory, that you can't really opt out of, or that you would it would be so inconvenient that they kind of clobber you over the head with it. And it's things that, again, that most people may not think of because it's sold to you in a way that they make you think you need it or whatever. But like two-factor authentication,
Right.
when I was on deployment, uh, I missed making my mortgage payment for 3 months in a row because I couldn't to log on to the system to pay my mortgage payment. It required two-factor authentication, and I was out in the middle of nowhere where I didn't have my cell phone, didn't have cell phone service. I had no way to do any two-factor authentication. So I was basically, and I was also in a place where I could not write a check and stick it in an envelope and mail it. I did not have access to mail. I did have access to the internet, but my access to the internet didn't allow me to do this two-factor authentication. And so
Right.
you can, like, going completely off the grid and, you know, completely removing your digital footprint and all that stuff. I think to a certain group of people that sounds very cool and romantic and sounds like James Bond. But if you, I think the other side, like you said, it's two sides of the same coin. If you really tried to live on that other side of the coin, you would be making your own life so
So hard.
inconvenient and
Right.
arduous. And because, like I said, to me, that's the perfect example. Is like I was trying to pay my mortgage payment and couldn't because
Right.
I had
Yeah.
to use. They forced me to use two-factor authentication, which is I go to log in, and even though I put in the correct username and password, they have to send a text to my phone with a verification code so that I can
Right.
enter that in. And I had no way of doing that.
Yeah.
And I missed my mortgage payment for 3 consecutive months, which was probably not good. But
Now just think about what you just said right there. How many, and again, this is one of those things where I'd be like, sound off in the comments. How many people have automatic recurring payments set up on whatever the bill is? Right, like same thing. Whatever my electric bill is, it's done automatically. I don't want to have to worry about it. Insurance, done. I don't ever have to worry about it. You go analog, go get, I don't need checks, right? When you first got a checking account, you went and you're like, oh, I got to get checks. And you know, oh no, it's a starter account because you're only at a check 101. And now, you know, banks are like, yeah, go ahead. What check number do you want to start at? 4 million? Great. Here you go. Because that means you've had a checking account for that long and you've written that many checks. I don't think I've ordered checks in a decade, because who does that anymore, right? You don't have auto pay set up. Guess what? Now you're writing a check every month. Are there people out there that still do it because they want to be in control and they want to balance their checkbook and to the penny? Yes, there probably are. And it may be easier for folks that are still writing checks to go and scrub a little bit of their digital footprint off. But just to kind of bring this full circle, it it really depends where you want to go with this. If you want to go completely off the grid and like you're a ghost, good luck. That is going to take a lot of time, and at the end of it, you're going to be in a world of darkness basically. I mean, I hate to say that, right? But you get it all. You delete it, and then you're stuck with using Proton Mail and a browser called Brave. Great. I mean, the moment you start passing information back to anybody outside of that, you've probably opened the gate to accessing your information again. Now, that being said, if you want to scrub the pictures of you from spring break 1994 when you were on, you know, whatever that, I don't remember what that show was. Remember that show that they had, that risque show, that spring break thing? But if you want to scrub
Wild,
those girls, that's it right there. If you want to scrub your spring break
I don't know.
Girls Gone Wild, you might, I don't know what that is. If you want to scrub that, start there. Like, I think if you're going to go down this path and embark on this journey to scrub your digital footprint, do it in sections. Start with the, you know, time you boosted a car and need to, and you've done your probation, and start there. You know, but if you want to start wiping everything else, I guess the first step is to stop continuing to give it.
Yeah. And just so everything's not doom and gloom, another little quick story from me that actually doing this to just a small extent, just on a couple of small surface layers, was actually very helpful to me. Just a few years ago when I got divorced, my ex-wife and I, we had joint bank accounts, and my ex-wife had all this stuff like set up on auto pay, and, you know, which was tied to my bank account and my routing number and my checking account. And like you said, with check numbers and all that stuff, because you jogged my memory, because I was thinking, like, when was the last time I wrote a check? And it was because when I got divorced and my ex-wife and I went through the process of separating everything, every month when I got paid, like, all my money was just gone. And I didn't know where it was going, because I had lost control. Like you said earlier, I had lost control of where my money was going, because all these things that I didn't even know about were set up on auto pay, and all these entities out there were just automatically sucking the money out of my account every month. And like, I would get paid and immediately be broke. And I was like, where did my money go? So
Right.
I had to do like a small kind of surface layer of this, where I closed down a bank account that I had had for many, many years, open a completely separate account with a completely new account number. And for like the first year, I had to pay everything by check, so that I could see exactly where my money was going, exactly what was getting paid, and exactly what wasn't, and basically do kind of like a hard reset just after getting divorced, because everything had become so intertwined and automated, and that I completely lost control of my own financial situation. And my ex-wife, because I'm in the military, I'm traveling a lot and going on deployment and stuff, you know, there wasn't any foul play going on. Like, nobody was stealing my money, but she handled all that, and I was oblivious to it. And so when we split everything and all these things were still attached to all of my digital footprints, all my money was just being kind of involuntarily being sucked out of my account and beyond my control. And I had to, like I said, do a hard reset and go back to analog to regain control of that. So that could be useful to, there's an app for that now too, where you sign up for this app and it tells you all these things that you're paying for that you may not even know that you're paying for. Like, some people have like,
isn't it LifeLock?
No, that's credit monitoring.
No, that's credit monitoring.
It's Rocket Money or something. But
I'm sure a quick Google search will score a result and then get 4 more like it. But
well, the example they always use on the commercial is that, like, you might be paying for 2 Netflix subscriptions and don't even know it, but you go to this app and it'll tell you those kind of things. But so cool. So like, this stuff, even though it's a pain in the butt and going back analog and writing checks and licking stamps, that can be a pain in the butt. There's also ways that could be helpful, and I'm also I can verify that.
Yeah. So like we said in the beginning of this episode, this is going to just start you on that path, right? We just stood here at the starting line. We gave you a brief synopsis of what the journey ahead looks like, and we leave it up to you to do some research, figure out if you want to even continue on this journey, or if you want to step off and just kind of, I don't want to say bury your head in the sand, because we're all there, but if it just becomes, whatever, it is what it is, right? If that's what it becomes after you start looking down the path, then that's fine. So be it. I would like to remove a little bit of my digital footprint. I would probably uh, see how much of my information has been leaked, and then and start there and start to control that and ensure that. And for me, what it is I want to ensure that my credit isn't being affected by anyone other than me. So that's what's important for me. You guys need to figure out what's important for you, but as always, we really appreciate you guys spending some time and joining us for these shows. We definitely appreciate your feedback. Jamie, anything to wrap it up?
Now, I was just going to jump back to the book one last time, because you again, what you were just saying kind of reminded me, like there's way more to this whole enchilada than most people probably even
Right.
realize. And so I was just going to reference the book one last time. This book is 600 pages and it's 19 chapters, and each chapter breaks down another vulnerable piece of your digital footprint that you probably thought was innocuous. There's a chapter on your pets, because when you register your pets and you take your pet to the vet, that is tethered back to your digital footprint and your identity and your method of payment and blah blah. So there's it's 600 pages, it's 19 chapters, and a lot of this stuff are things that you never would have thought of probably. So yeah, kind of with you, I think my main takeaway from just doing a little bit of a dive in this today is I'm gonna kind of go ahead and start just trying to purge old stuff and try to dig back up some of those old accounts and old websites and stuff like that, and start erasing that stuff, so that if maybe in the near future I want to take a deeper dive, I will have front loaded myself to make it easier to turn off the spigot of what I'm currently doing and not have to worry about that old stuff anymore. So.
Yeah. And plus you'll have an idea of how to do it. So, we'll definitely link the book that Jamie's talking about in the description below on YouTube. And for those of you that are listening on Spotify and Apple, you can just find it over on the YouTube channel. So
the title of the book is Extreme Privacy: What It Takes to Disappear.
There you go.
I think I have the second edition. I think they're on the fourth edition now.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. Well, there you go, guys. As always, you guys stay safe out there and don't be a resupply. ZP002 out. Jamie?
Hey, just remember, it's easy to be hard and it's hard to be smart, and that especially plays into this. So that's all.
All right, guys. Take care. We'll see you next time.